Hello dear viewer, today I've got a bit of a collection update, just showing you some of the Blu-rays and 4K Blu-rays that I have been enjoying lately. Perhaps you can take some of these as recommendation if you have similar tastes to me. First up, the latest release from Second Sight Films, who have already had a fantastic 2024 so far. It's the limited Blu-ray edition of Inside. This is the French horror film, which is one of the most shocking pieces of cinema that I have ever seen. There are things in this film that I could not believe I was seeing on screen because of how just out there they were in terms of blood and gore and injury. And it's part of this whole French extremity movement, which I've been watching more and more films of. And it's just peculiar. I don't know why this particular thing in French horror was happening at this time. You know, these are very graphic films that are pushing the boundary of, you know, what was seen in horror cinema before these kind of films. I won't spoil any of these surprises, but the film is about this pregnant woman who is being hunted down by this other woman for her baby while she is trapped in this house. It's very disturbing, so if this is not your kind of thing, please do not have a look at this because yeah, it might upset you greatly. That said, the Second Sight limited edition Blu-ray is fantastic. It has the same production value that we come to expect from Second Sight film releases, with the hardbound box set, you got the booklets, the art card, and the disc inside the case, and of course the lovely hard box, which, yeah, I just love how they make these releases. The film itself looks great on the Blu-ray. I know some people were a bit apprehensive about this one because when Second Sight released Frontiers, the other French horror movie that they did, that didn't look so great. I think just because the materials or the recent scans of the film just aren't up to scratch, so to speak. However, this one looked great to me. There were no issues that I could see with this one. Tons of special features with all of the filmmakers on the disc, and the booklet was a great read after watching the film. So highly recommended only if you are into this kind of graphic horror film. Next up, a film about a serial killer, which in comparison to Inside actually looks quite tame. It's Peeping Tom on the 4K disc. And I've just recently done a video review of this on the channel, so I won't say much more other than the film looks great on the 4K disc, and it's just a classic. It really is. Next, I'll just mention the Sidney Lumet Volume 1 set from Imprint Films in Australia. I've also done a video talking about these films, so do go and check that out. I had a great time revisiting these, and Sidney Lumet is just one of my favourite filmmakers. So I highly recommend this, particularly if you have none of the films already that are featured in this set. Next, I had the pleasure of watching Cutting Class on the 4K disc from MVD over in the United States. This is a very early film starring one Brad Pitt, so it was very interesting seeing one of his earliest performances. This is a teenage high school story with a mass murderer going about killing everyone, and yeah, it's kind of what you would expect, although what I will say, the reason I didn't enjoy this film as much as I thought I would is it's trying to do two quite distinct things at once. It's trying to do a teenage high school melodrama, and it's also trying to do a horror slasher movie. And I don't think it does either one of these things well enough for the film to stand up on its own. And I feel like it should have picked one side and kind of gone down that route. The film looks great from the 4K scan of the camera negative. The HDR really helps the image as well. And you get tons of special features on the Blu-ray disc that is included. It also comes in this slipcover, which is one for the collectors, and it's in the MVD 4K laser vision line, and it's spine number 4, except I don't have 1, 2 or 3, so this is the first one I've got. I'm not actually sure what the other ones are. I think is Swamp Thing one of them, perhaps. I might have to go back and get the others. But anyway, this was an enjoyable, if not a bit frustrating watch at the direction the film goes in, but it was great to see a young Brad Pitt in 4K. Then I watched the very critically acclaimed film Past Lives, which came out last year, from director Celine Song. This is a love story of sorts. It's a reconnection of two people who knew each other in childhood, and they find each other again in their adult lives. Of course, they have grown up, but it raises some very interesting questions about who they are and their own relationships. I must say that this film did not hit me like it has hit other people. And in fact, I think there are some actually quite glaring problems with this film, which maybe I'll talk about in a future video. I'm even thinking of writing an essay, like a video essay on this film, because yeah, there were some very, what looked like interesting directorial choices, which actually kind of, they stuck out like a sore thumb to me. So perhaps I'll do that soon. Have a look out for that one. Next up, I got a few Blu-rays from Lightbulb Film Distribution in the UK, who are a label that I hadn't got any releases from before, but I've been pleasantly surprised with some of the films that they have been putting out. I've got two here to talk about, but I've got a few more that I'm going to be talking about in the future. The first one is this, Something in the Dirt, and this is a Moorhead and Benson movie. If you aren't familiar with Moorhead and Benson, they are American independent filmmakers who are working within the science fiction genre, and they do some really inventive stuff in their science fiction filmmaking, which shows that you don't need massive Hollywood blockbuster budgets to make a good science fiction film. This one, Something in the Dirt, was one I hadn't seen before I got this Blu-ray, and I'm very glad I have now. This is one that they made during the pandemic, so it stars Moorhead and Benson in the two lead roles. Their characters are neighbours. One of them has just moved into this new place, and they notice some very peculiar things going on in the apartment, like these floating objects, and perhaps there's a portal to another dimension. And the film is structured like a documentary looking back at the making of a film. So it's a great way to tell the story. I'm a huge fan of Moorhead and Benson. I think I've seen all of their work at this point. And this Blu-ray from Lightbulb, it is a great one. You get the film in this slipcover, it's in a thin Blu-ray case, and there are some great special features, including a featurette of the making of the film. So highly recommended if you're a science fiction fan. This next film from Lightbulb is one I didn't know too much about, but I'd heard that it had some buzz at some of the film festivals. It's this one, The Integrity of Joseph Chambers. In this film, we follow this young father and husband as he decides to go out hunting into the woods alone. And it's not terribly clear on why he does this, what his intentions are, but there's a lot of kind of thematic stuff going on here about masculinity and wanting to become, you know, the ideal man, and feeling like this is a rite of passage, that he has to go out and do this. However, this is not the most clever thing to do, of course, and he encounters some problems when he goes into the woods alone. This is really a great film that surprised me because it really takes its time. There's a lot of kind of time to breathe in this film, time to reflect on what is going on with this character, what he's going through in the woods. It's not perhaps what I'd call slow cinema, but maybe it's sort of edging upon that. And I had a great time with it. It was a real surprise. So if that sounds at all interesting to you and you like independent filmmaking, this is a great one to get from Lightbulb, and you get the slipcover like with Something in the Dirt. This next film is quite an interesting one. It's called Born to Fly. This is a film about these young pilots who are training to become a part of the Air Force in China. And let's just talk about the elephant in the room straight away. This is very much like Top Gun. In fact, this film was made in the wake of Top Gun Maverick being banned in China because of some of the things that were included in that film. So I think the comparisons to Top Gun Maverick are just unavoidable with this film. If you're into military films, Air Force combat movies, then this is probably one that you will want to check out. I did enjoy it, although it is not Top Gun Maverick. It's very much lacking the charisma and any of the humour that you might find in Top Gun Maverick. This film is told very straight, very much without humour, and I couldn't really connect with these characters. Admittedly, I didn't feel much of the chemistry was strong between these characters, and the stakes in this film are a lot lower than in Top Gun because most of this film is set during training, not actual combat. So if you like Top Gun style films and you want to see a Chinese version of it, then you might enjoy this like I did on the Blu-ray. That was just a quick look at the variety of films that I've been enjoying on Blu-ray in the last week or so. If you want to stick around on the channel and get more recommendations from me, just click the video that's on screen right now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.